Hey, what's happening guys? It's me Harshit and this is the Redmi Note 5 Pro. Xiaomi's 2018 bet into the budget smartphone market after its highly successful Redmi Note 4, which in fact became India's best-selling smartphone in 2017. Now that I've used this phone for the past 1.5 months, I've formed a solid opinion about it. In my opinion, this is the best budget smartphone under 15,000 right now. You can't get a better phone at least in this price range. But no smartphone is perfect, and there are also certain things that might be a bummer for many people, though you are getting more than enough for what you are paying for. So make sure you watch the full review to form a solid opinion about this device, as I've tried to list down my personal experience after using it for more than 1.5 months. Now before starting this review, one thing that really pissed me off particularly about this device is that it's almost impossible to get one on a flash sale. I was not able to get a device for almost 3 flash sales, and by chance I fortunately got the black variant in the third sale and also got my hands on a gold one which my friend owned. Xiaomi definitely needs to improve upon the availability of its devices, as I've seen people switching to other brands due to lack of availability of the Redmi Note 5 Pro. So starting off with the design, on the back we get a vertically placed dual camera module along with a camera protrusion. We also get a metal back which has a centrally placed fingerprint scanner just like the previous iterations. Like previous years, the antenna inlays at the top and bottom of the device are made out of plastic but feature a metallic finish. There's a minor variance in color between the inlays and the metal back, particularly on the gold version. It isn't as noticeable on the other color options of the device. This time around the phone is quite tall in my opinion, and I find it a bit difficult to operate it with one hand, and the tallness is mostly due to the 6-inch display up front with an 18:9 aspect ratio. The buttons are also decently tactile, but this time around I feel due to the thin and curved edges of the side bezel panel, we do not get as much grip as we got with the previous iterations. So Xiaomi provided a case with the Redmi Note 5 Pro just to add some grip and to remove the camera protrusion, but do note that the case won't provide much protection. Overall, there is no compromise on the build quality of a Type-C port, which is a bit disappointing provided that a Type-C port was used in the budget-oriented Mi A1 last year. Xiaomi also doesn't provide a fast charger out of the box, so you may note that. Also, there is a hybrid SIM slot instead of a dedicated SD card slot. Now talking about the display, we have a 6 inches 18:9 full HD IPS LCD panel, and due to that 6-inch display, we have on-screen navigation buttons this time. Now the on-screen navigation buttons are pretty good and responsive, but one thing that has come to my notice is that the buttons when pressed sometimes don't activate, though the touchscreen identifies the touch. Now to my knowledge, that might be a feature added by Xiaomi on purpose to prevent accidental triggers of the navigation buttons. The on-screen navigation buttons can also be customized from the settings menu. The panel quality is quite good and the colors out of the box are also vibrant enough, though you can also tweak the saturation of the display in the settings. Although in sunlight the legibility isn't that great, though it's certainly better than its competition, though you can use it outdoors without any major problems. Also, this time around the display is curved at all the 4 corners, and I personally prefer smartphones with the curved corners. I loved that on my LG G6 from last year, and I love it on my Redmi Note 5 Pro. Though 3 out of 4 color variants have a white front panel, which doesn't look that bad. They do make the bezels look a bit bigger, while on the black variant it is not the case. But I'm biased and I always prefer a black front bezel, but the white one looks catchy and it isn't bad in my opinion. Now talking about the protection up front, there's a Corning Gorilla Glass on the Redmi Note 5 Pro, however the version isn't mentioned on its official website. So I prefer a tempered glass from Case U, and you can check it out if you are looking one for your device. Overall the display is crisp and I don't have any problems with it. Now let's talk about the performance and the software. So most of you would be aware of the fact that the 5 Pro is powered by the Snapdragon 636 and has 2 RAM variants of 4 and 6 GB. Now there has been a lot of talks lately that getting the 6GB RAM variant is not worth it, as the price is 21% more than the 4GB RAM variant. Now I agree with that up to some extent, but 6GB RAM variant is definitely more future proof. And I also saw a speed test of my friend Dhananjay's comparison of the two RAM variants, and there was a lot of difference in the apps kept open in the background. Though Xiaomi could have definitely provided a 128GB RAM variant for 17,000, but it's not here and we can't do much about it. My 4GB RAM variant was actually very smooth overall, and scrolling through web pages switching between apps was flawless. Talking about the chipset inside, the Snapdragon 636 features 8 cores in total, with 4 performance cores complemented by 4 energy efficient cores. We have seen that combination in use in the Android space for a few years now, and it strikes the ideal balance between performance and energy efficiency. The 4 high performance cores are based on ARM's Cortex-A73, one of the fastest cores available today, and the energy efficient cores are based on the Cortex-A53. The performance on tap with the Redmi Note 5 Pro is nothing short of extraordinary, and it's safe to say that this is the fastest phone in the budget segment by some margin. Though I did game a bit on it and there was almost no lag in the gameplay, I'll be posting a gameplay video soon, and I'll leave a link and a card to it as soon as it's out. Now there is use of LPDDR4X RAM both in 4 and 6GB RAM variants. The one thing I have specifically noticed on my 4GB RAM variant is that the usable RAM drops down to about 7 to 800 megabytes as soon as I open a bunch of apps, though there is no lag at all. But if you are looking to aggressively multitask through different apps, you can think about getting the higher 6GB RAM variant. Though for 80% of the users, 4GB RAM variant would be sufficient enough. Enough of the hardware, now let's talk about the software. I don't mind the MIUI as there are no performance issues with the skin, and most of the people clearly don't mind it as it does not hinder with the experience. But I'm not a huge fan of the aesthetics of the MIUI, so I always prefer Nova Launcher over it and customize it a bit to make it similar to stock Android, and also applying a dark theme from Theme Store. Now most of you would be familiar with MIUI, so I won't go much into the features of the software. MIUI 9 on Redmi Note 5 Pro is pretty stable and battery efficient. One major downside is that it does not come with Android Oreo and still runs on Android Nougat, which is a bit disappointing. But Xiaomi can definitely catch up by providing a software update to Android Oreo. Now there are some nifty features in MIUI like Quick Ball, one-handed mode, dual apps, which let you run 2 instances of an app natively, and native split screen functionality, which is kind of nice. Now there are some nifty features in MIUI like Quick Ball, one-handed mode, dual apps, which let you run 2 instances of an app natively, and native split screen functionality, which is kind of nice. Now we also have Xiaomi services with MIUI, which are Mi Cloud, Mi Drop, and their own app store, which isn't that bad to be honest. Overall, the software isn't the hurdle in the performance of the Redmi Note 5 Pro, unlike other custom skins from device manufacturers which tend to bog down the device. But if you aren't the fan of its aesthetics, you can always download a custom launcher and a theme just to make it look better and suit your preference. Now one software feature I'm not a huge fan of is Face Unlock. I mean, it works most of the times, but somehow I prefer the fingerprint scanner, mostly because I find it a bit difficult to raise a huge phone every time I want to unlock it, and it is a hit or miss under low light conditions and when there is significant amount of light behind your face. Now don't get me wrong, I don't hate the Face Unlock, but it is just that I'm not comfortable using it. Though do note that the Face Unlock has got significantly better after software updates, though I still prefer a fingerprint scanner over this as it is much faster. Call quality has also been great outdoors, but I lost quite a lot of signals when I was inside my room and I had to move out to get a better signal. But when the signals were back, call quality wasn't an issue. Now this has been a problem with all my budget devices, though not in flagships like my LG G6 and iPhone 10. but there is no significant drop in signals like there were in the Mi A1, which improved after software updates. Both the earpiece and the loudspeaker are perfectly clear for calls, and the loudspeaker is loud enough for ringtones but doesn't sound especially good for music, though it is pretty loud. The output through the headphone jack is also decent, though not like the Mi A1, which had an exceptional output through the headphone jack, but this time I got a small electronic interference through the headphone jack, which translated to a hissing sound. Now, I faced this problem with my Mi A1, but thankfully this time it disappeared after some time after I rebooted my device. Now, talking about the notification LED, it is just white in color, unlike the multicolored LED from its previous generations. Now, I'm not sure why Xiaomi did this, as it would have been much better if the notification LED was multicolored. Now, talking about one of the strongest aspects of the Redmi Note 5 lineup, the battery life. If you have been a user of the Redmi Note lineup, you might be aware of its massive capacity. So as you probably already know, it has a 4000 mAh battery, which is 100 units lesser than the previous model. But I haven't noticed any major changes in the battery life. I started my day at 7 in the morning, and by the time I was home, after using it extensively throughout the day, mostly surfing the web, playing some games and taking some pictures, and all that with LTE toggled on throughout my usage, I had about 35 to 40% of juice still left inside. Now that's amazing, as most of the phones I've used have given up by the end of the day if I use them heavily with LTE turned on. So major props to Xiaomi for continuing its legacy in the battery life department. Also, you may note that there is no bundled fast charger in the box, which is kind of disappointing as it takes almost 2.5 hours to fully charge. Now, you might be aware of the fact that the Redmi Note 5 Pro supports Bluetooth 5.0, which is fantastic. Bluetooth 5.0's primary benefits are improved speeds and greater range, and it also allows you to play audio on two connected devices at the same time. But to use Bluetooth 5.0 to its full potential, you gotta have peripherals that support Bluetooth 5.0, though you can connect your old Bluetooth devices without any problems. Now, Xiaomi launched the Redmi Note 5 Pro in India. They touted it as India's camera beast, which is mostly true, as the camera performance is probably the best in the budget price range. Now, I have a belief that to judge a camera's quality, you have to look at a picture yourself rather than a reviewer speaking out the specifications of the camera, as colors are a bit subjective. So I would leave a bunch of camera samples in different conditions at the end of this video, and you can judge the camera quality yourself. So speaking about the camera, we get a vertically placed iPhone 10 inspired dual camera setup with a LED flashlight in the middle of the two sensors. We get a 12 megapixel f2.2 primary sensor along with a 5 megapixel depth sensor to capture depth for portrait mode images. And on the front, we have a 20 megapixel sensor with a flashlight, which is a pleasant addition. The camera application is similar to other MIUI 9 devices, but has been updated to include the option for portrait mode. We have got the HDR mode, which ups the dynamic range, but sadly there is no auto HDR mode. Now, coming on to the image quality, I was impressed with the images in well-lit situations. The low-light images were also not that bad, but in extremely dark conditions, the camera struggled to take pictures, as the noise and grain level increased significantly. The white balance and colors are also pretty good. Overall, you are getting much more than what you are paying for at this price point. The portrait mode was very impressive with both the rear and front cameras. The edge detection was quite good and the blur was subtle. But sometimes the blur was a bit artificial when human subjects were in focus. Overall, I am quite satisfied with the camera, and I would strongly recommend it to someone looking forward to buying it for a good budget camera smartphone for pictures. Well, on the other hand, on the video side, I was a bit disappointed with it. The video was a bit soft, and overall it wasn't a good experience in the video department. Though the phone has EIS, that is electronic image stabilization, it was okayish and added a bit of stabilization to the video. Also, there is no support for 4K recording, but it can be done through a third-party application. So that's it. This wraps up my Redmi Note 5 Pro review. This is one of the best budget smartphones out there, and if you're looking for a phone under 15,000, just go for it. For less than 15,000, you'll get a quality display and excellent performance from a new processor, a fabulous camera, and the same incredible battery life. The Redmi Note 5 Pro delivers on nearly every count. Also, I would recommend getting the 4GB RAM variant as I don't think the 6GB RAM variant justifies its cost. But if you are planning to use your phone extensively or for a longer period of time, get the 6GB RAM variant. I also have my eyes on the Asus Zenfone Max Pro, and the specifications of that thing are also worth considering, and that too at a much lower price point. But I would recommend you to wait for the first wave of Zen phones to sell in order for them to be tested thoroughly. Leave your comments down below if you want me to cover it. So that's been it. Thanks for watching and subscribe if you'd like to stick around, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hopefully soon. Take care.